Walking down the street tonight with a clock, smiling face. Look you in the eye, turn around, stab you in the back, steal you out the way.
Alright, so that was When My Train Pulls In by Gary Clark Jr. And if you know who he is, I'm sure you've heard that song. You've probably heard that other song he had, Numb. It's a pretty good one too. He's got a lot of really cool music. If you don't know who he is, go check him out. Especially if you're, learning guitar, man. The guy's wild on guitar, so he needs to be on your radar anyway. Song's pretty easy. It's in the key of E, standard tuning, and I'm just gonna jump into it. So here we go. So all you're gonna do, it's pretty simple. You're gonna start on this A string. So if you know the names of your strings, you got E, B, G, D, A, starting from the bottom. Or I like to tell anybody who's like starting out learning, an easy way to remember it is Easter Bunny got dumped at Easter, right? Little acronym for you there. So I think that's what an acronym is. I feel really stupid now. I'm still gonna upload this, so it's okay. So you're gonna start on your A string, and you're just gonna hit it open and hammer on to the second. So, all right. Then after that, you go open on the D string. So that's that first little lick, and now you're gonna do kind of a similar thing, but instead of going open on the D string, after you go open, hammer on, you're gonna move to the 3rd fret on your E string, which is your G note. So altogether that's, and on that, give that just like a little, what they call a micro bend. You don't want to, you don't want to like bend it a full step or a half step, anything like that. You just want to give it just a little flavor on it, just like that. So all together, and then you're going to come back to your D, open and hammer onto the 2, and then open on the E. All right, so all together, and then come back to that 2. Just hold that note there the whole time. So then what is that? That's, then hit that E one more time. Okay, so open, hammer on, second on the A, and then open D, and then open, hammer on, second on the A, down to 3rd on the E. That little bend, and then so you're gonna open, hammer on, second on your D string, and then you're gonna hit your E, and then come back to the D, and then E one more time, and then you're gonna start that whole thing over. And so it's really pretty simple, and it's a great way to, I guess, kind of there is a parade of Polaris ATVs flying down my street here in lovely West Tulsa this evening. Okay, so it's a good little exercise for like a E minor blues scale. If you know your scales. If I can play it. I got a burr on my pick, I'm gonna blame it on that. Anyway. Sorry, Ginger. She probably got hit in the eye with that. She'll be okay. So it's basically that, just over and over throughout the verse, and I'll get into that next part in a second, but just practice that for a second. And so that whole little motion right there is basically centered around a chord E minor. So you can hear that sound, how that kind of sounds like the same thing, right? So what I'm going to do, I play through 4 measures of, I'm going to do that 4 times, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my middle finger to kind of mute some of the other strings, and you can play around with what strings you want to mute and what strings you don't. You can really, once you start strumming this, play this with that chord I just showed you, that E minor, which is all the strings are open except for on the A string and on the D string, you're pushing down on the second frets. That's an E minor chord. Whatever you want. So I'm going to go. Back in. With just kind of a little palm mute to kind of muffle it during that verse so you can hear the vocals a little bit, you know. And really all I'm doing on that, I'm playing the same shapes and I'm still picking on most of it, just single string stuff, but I'm kind of hitting a bunch of strings at once in specific parts for emphasis. So kind of right there. And what I'm doing right there, I'm using my middle finger on that second fret on the D string, but I'm touching both strings on either side of it. So I'm touching my A string and that G string. Don't touch your G string on camera though. Only me. And so I'm muting the A string and the G string, and so that's the sound you're getting. So you can't hear those strings. It just so it's that real crisp kind of a chord rather than a full E minor chord. So it doesn't sound as great when you have the overdrive turned on if you're going to play full-bodied chords and stuff. Sometimes you gotta take some of the notes out of the chord and you know, make it sound a little more direct when you have overdrive. If I was just playing clean, it might sound better. When I turn on that overdrive, it kind of muddies up the sound a little bit, right? That's the idea there. That's basically, you know, if you've heard that song, that's the idea of that whole song, is that riff right there. So you're going to do all of that, your little intro or your single string. 4 measures in. That's when all the drums kick in, the bass comes in. Fourth measure, you're going to end on that little bend right there, and then you're going to move up. And the best I could tell, I'll be honest, I don't 100% know that this is exactly how he plays it, but it sounds a lot like it. And from what I've seen on live performances, this looks like the chord that he's using. So you're hitting the A string open. So your A string's open, and then on your D string, you're on the 7th fret with your ring finger. G string, you got the 5th fret with your pointer finger. B string, you're on the 8th fret with your pinky. And then the E's open. The little E's open. You're not hitting this big E. So, and he kind of arpeggiates that chord. An arpeggio is basically the single notes pulled apart in the chord. So here's the chord. And to arpeggiate that chord would be. Okay. So he kind of somewhat does that, but he's kind of strumming them at the same time. Like just imagine your guitar is set up like you got bass strings, mid strings, and treble strings, arpeggiate with that idea that you're kind of hitting the bass, bass mid, treble mid, bass mid, treble mid, bass mid, treble mid, bass mid, treble mid. Okay, so do that. Now I keep playing that 4 times. You only play it twice. So I'm gonna come back in and I'm gonna hit this. And then from that chord right there, all I'm gonna do is move my pinky down 1 fret on that B string. Hit that twice. So when you come out of and then back into that. And actually he might land, let me see here. Okay, so you're actually landing back on that open D to second, to hammer onto the second fret. That last little part of that riff, and then you come back into the whole thing. Now, on this next part, to kind of get that 12-bar blues feel, he goes up to what you would call in the Nashville number system the 5 chord, basically. And the way I play that is I'm basically taking my thumb, I'm using my thumb on the 7th fret of the E string. You can use your middle finger, your pointer finger, whatever you're more comfortable with. I switch. Sometimes I'll do it this way, I'll do it that way, whatever. Whatever's easiest at the moment, I'll go to. But basically what you're gonna do is the 7th fret on the E string and the D string is what you're gonna be pushing down. So it sounds real muddy when it's by itself, but in context, when you play it in the song, it sounds really good. I'm gonna mute also my A string when I hit that. And now you can go back to this, that second where you started like that and then you slid your pinky down. You can go back to that one. So it would sound like. It would sound better than that, hopefully. But you can do that, or you can do the same shape like this. And then come back in. So that's the gist of it, basically, and that's the whole verse. So I'll run through that whole thing one time so you can hear the full thing. Here we go. This is what the whole thing sounds like. Starting in the verse, in the first verse. Okay, and then
then nothing else because I'm done ordering, okay?
And then?
There's 2 different styles of verses in that song. So once you get through that first pass of like that 12-bar blues shape, now you're gonna come into this E minor chord up here, an octave higher. So you got an E minor chord down here, right? And now you're gonna play an E minor chord up here. Okay, and so what you're doing here, I'm gonna hit this E string is open, the top E, and then my A string is on the 7th fret. So there's your octave right there. So open E, 7 on the A string, and then you're gonna get 9 on your D string, 9 on the G string, and then 8 on your B. And because you're barring your pointer finger, you're gonna still have 7 on your little E. So you're kind of doing like almost like a little reggae style on a minor chord. So you know, usually reggae chords are. So you can play that in a major chord and it would sound good. Make a song out of that, sounds like Bob Marley or something. But when you come up here and play it on that E minor, it just sounds different, right? It sounds really cool. So that's what he's doing there. And so you basically just, the way you get that sound is you hit the strings and just let off immediately. You don't let all the way off the strings, but you let off the frets. You're still touching the strings, you're just basically letting off the frets. And then I'll either like lift my pinky up and slam it back down to get some kind of variation in that chord. That's it. You know the whole song now, except, I mean, for the solo, obviously. But when I'm playing that show live, I just kind of freestyle in the key of E minor. I don't actually play the same solo that he plays. It's different every time, right? That's what he does. So, you know, if you want to see that, let me know. But other than that, that's When My Train Pulls In by Gary Clark Jr. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope you can get your hands to work for you and learn to play that. If you want to learn any kind of blues music, that's a great place to start, you know, working your fingers out on the fretboard and kind of moving around and getting some ideas for different shapes you can make and different sounds. And there's a lot going on in that song, but it's really not that hard, you know. So I hope you enjoyed the video. Be awesome if you guys left a comment. It'd be really awesome if you subscribed on the YouTube channel here. And appreciate you stopping in. Have a good night. Thanks.
I'll be